You all see my screen?
Yep.
Cool. Well, I'm Luke Javernick. I'm the Executive Director of River Science. And we're just going to kind of go over quickly what river science is. You'll see river science quite a bit with Riverwatch. And so we all kind of felt like it was important to let you know who river science is and how our involvement is with Riverwatch and some of the other things that river science does. So River Science is the nonprofit that helps administer the Riverwatch program in partnership with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. So that's how River Science folds into Riverwatch. And so within that, like Michaela and Bradley are River Science employees running the Riverwatch program. River Science as a bigger organization, we are a 501c3 nonprofit. We've been around since 2016, and our whole goal of the nonprofit was really to bring creative approaches to making river health affordable, whether that's through education or technology. And that's our mission, and that's what we're driven by, and that's how we started to connect so well with Riverwatch when that contract became available. It really fits our mission very well. And we were fortunate to be able to secure the contract back in 2019, I believe. And that brings us to today. So River Science's mission specifically is to leverage education and technology and to help make river data and river health affordable. So if we kind of break down those tiers, I'll just kind of go through how we support these different goals, starting with education. And you'll see a lot of parallel in here between what we're doing and what Riverwatch has already been doing for the last 30 years. So they really are very synergistic programs, and what we're doing together is really exciting. So within River Science, a big focus of ours has always been to get kids interested in water, to be future stewards, but also to give them skill sets. So it's not just education for education purposes, but it's actually to get kids out and to experience it, to gain skill sets. And how we've done that in the last couple of years, obviously, you know, Riverwatch is a perfect fit for that. It's already giving kids real skill sets in the schools. But you all already know quite a bit about Riverwatch, so I'm not going to kind of go into a whole lot of Riverwatch because you all know that very well. But just kind of splice in there what a good fit that already is for our mission. But since about 2018, we have been working with Canyon City High Schools mostly. They have an environmental science class, and we worked with them to get them out on some of our river science projects where we were working on some post-fire recovery areas that had Big Cottonwood Creek and others. And so the students went down there, and with Riverwatch, they were doing water quality on all of these 9 different creeks, and they were also doing some macroinvertebrate counts to really kind of document how the different creeks were responding to the Hayden Peak fire. And then we also looked at the Arkansas River above, where all of the water from those tributaries comes in, and below. And it was pretty interesting to show the students, and interesting for the project itself to kind of show that drastic difference between the health of the Arkansas River above and below this burn. For reference, above in the kick net, they had over 1,000 bugs. I think it was 11 different species. And then downstream of it, it only had like 410 bugs, and it only had like 4 species of bugs. And I don't remember them off the top of my head, but it was a clear, drastic reduction in the Arkansas River where all of that burned tributaries came in. With all the sediment and the water quality issues that follow. So it was good to get the students out, they really helped our project, but they learned a lot and got the experience. And from that, we just kind of kept building with the Canyon City High Schools. And now today we have our own full river science class that we actually kind of split into two. The first semester is all about river sciences, or sorry, River Watch's water quality. So many of you have probably gone out and done the River Watch training, the in-person training. And with that, in the past, there's always been like a certificate that you get for passing that. We ended up talking to the Department of Education at the state level, and they have a program called CDIP, CDIP, which stands for the Career Development Incentive Program. And with that, if students get skill sets in an area or field that's in demand in Colorado, so for future job growth, then that's good. And also if they can show that these skill sets are needed by employers, that's good. And if you meet those two qualifications, then you can get your program approved. And with the CDIP program, if you become certified within their list of programs, then the schools can get reimbursed up to $1,000 per year per student. So it's a fantastic program where students are getting real skills that will actually benefit their future careers. And the schools get back some funding. And it's helping us too, because we're able to provide more of those training opportunities and direct skill sets to the students instead of just the teachers that go to train the students, but we're kind of getting right to the students. And that's really exciting for the program. And of course, it's helping River Watch and the schools make these programs more sustainable because of the financial component that the state brings. So that's the first class that we're offering at CCHS, is kind of this River Science 1, which really is all about water quality, and that River Watch certificate for the CDIP. Let's see. I'll just kind of touch on this. COVID obviously interrupted a lot of things for us with all of the training and getting these students out there with the skill sets and the certifications. But in all of that disruption, it actually kind of forced us to think about how we can pivot and bring in a lot of the online resources. And so during the 2020 year, we really kind of focused on getting Bradley and Michaela and Megan and Barb to pull together a lot of the typical training into these short videos. There's over 100 videos now, but they really kind of go through all of the different, all of the protocols and methods for the River Watch. And so we have those all organized now, and they're a great resource. It'll be coming soon to anybody who's looking for refreshers, or they're also kind of teaching aids for these other schools that would like to be offering this CDIP program that can help get your students certified through this program. So just to kind of bring in, we've been slowly rolling out CDIP. It's a big process to get organized and logistically. So the first year we could offer it was kind of the spring of 2021. And in that, we were able to work with 3 schools, and we were able to certify 94 students. This now year, 21-22, we're working with 7 different schools. And we're kind of right now in March looking at getting some of these kids ready to be certified. Some of the students also were certified in the fall. But long story short here is that we are working to keep refining this, these online resources, and understanding what the teachers need and what the students need to make this program scaled to the different schools that we have within the River Watch program. So that's coming. We're working hard on that. It's been a big priority of all of ours, and Michaela's working really hard on this as well. So If you do have questions about it, you can reach out to me or Michaela, and we can answer your questions. But anyway, I'll keep moving on. The second one, we just, so River Science 2 right now at Canyon City High Schools, and they're kind of our guinea pig. They've been really great to pilot these programs as we've been building them. But River Science 2 is all about the same concepts of getting the experience and the skill sets, getting kids out in the field and participating in our projects. But this time they're focusing on the skill sets of hydrology, river engineering, and getting into water law and policy. So they can really kind of start to understand how projects come together, the logistics, understanding that there's a whole lot of stakeholder engagement, and you can't just do whatever you want, wherever you want, but there's a whole lot of water law and policy and management that goes with it. So we're working on this course. Right now we have 10 students going through it for the first time, and it has a CDIP certification as well. So we're piloting this, and we'll just keep working on this as well. And I'll just throw in that this work has been a huge part of Rawlings Foundation, Newmont, and the Gates Family Foundation have all helped out with a lot of this River Science 2. So yeah. So the great thing, the great and difficult thing about this other class is you have to have a place for the students to be able to go out and see the experiences of a real river restoration project. And in Canyon City right now, we have the Van Norman project, which is about 8 miles south of the high school. So it's relatively convenient to get the students out there. They go out there once a month, help with data collection. We're always flying the drone to recapture the changes, and we're getting ready right now to start implementation for restoration. So the students will kind of come in, help us out with data, and really see the progress. And at the end of this semester in late April or early May, we hope to get the students actually out there putting in some of these treatments with us. And yeah, there's a lot of text there, but we're not going to read through it. We're going to keep going high level here. This is just kind of a picture of the Van Norman project. Really just the main problem here is how deep this Oak Creek is incised. This one here is about 10 feet right there. And that's really kind of what we're trying to look at is how to restore the processes of this creek so that it has more of those geomorphic units like pools, riffles, runs, and more available habitat, as well as lifting the water table so that the water is flowing more than it is right now. This creek 20 years ago was pretty close to perennial, and today it's more of an ephemeral. So we're trying to really work on the water table here. And that's really, if you don't know what process-based restoration is, it's really trying to work with the creek's natural processes, where we're putting in small hand-built treatments made out of wood and rock, branches, and really kind of starts over here on the left. And the idea is that you can take a creek that's kind of starved of structure and put in some of these treatments that kind of kind of kick off the processes that are missing. So as time goes on, the creek kind of adjusts and starts flowing around these treatments. So it starts to move around again. So you get some of that erosion process. Downstream, you might have some more structures that are trapping the sediment that's coming out of that erosion. And you keep doing that in series to try to get the creek to widen and lift. And over time, you're also going to be lifting the water table. Just a quick note that this picture shows a lot of beaver dams and a lot of water spreading out. That's not always the goal. Sometimes ending here is fine, or ending here is fine, but not necessarily with beavers, because not everywhere wants beavers right now. Beavers are a little controversial in some areas, like the area I live in the Arkansas Basin. So the treatments look a lot like this. This is a bank attached PAL, post-assisted log structure. So you're really just kind of, you've anchored in some of these stakes, you've piled in some branches and logs, and the flow is going to kind of start to get kicked around into the bank to try and widen the creek. Downstream, maybe you have some of these. This is called a BDA, a beaver dam analog. And it's really slowing the water down, trapping sediment, trying to lift it. So they can look a little different. You can also do channel spanning PALs to do similar things as this that are a little bit more leaky. There's issues in Colorado right now because some people look at this as that you're diverting water or that you're ponding water, and then there's some water rights implications here. So that's some of our projects that we have are specifically looking at water rights. So that's kind of the other side of river science, is actually doing river restoration other than just education. We're bringing the kids in here, of course, but restoration is part of what river science is all about. This is another restoration project. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on here, just to kind of talk about that there are other opportunities to do this. This is the post-fire of the Hayden Peak fire, Big Cottonwood Creek, where the students initially started helping out. This is one of the burned creeks. And before the flood and fire, or the fire and flooding that occurred, it used to have a lot of beaver ponds. It used to have a very well-connected riparian area, kind of shown here pre-fire, pre-flood. And then, so it burned in 2016. Major floods happened in 2018. And it completely scarred the landscape and disconnected the floodplain and the health of this creek to where now it's much smaller riparian area. It's very disconnected. There's no more beaver ponds. And within the context of water rights, this one's a little bit easier because there's a direct impact. And right now we have funding to go out and look at how we can restore this creek back to similar conditions that it used to be in. Because ultimately this has a real impact long-term after the fire. So there's always kind of that rush right after a fire, because flooding is inevitable almost, that you kind of have to start to protect property and life. And then there's usually like that 3-year or 5-year period where there's a lot of work happening. But after 5 years, there's not a whole lot of work that continues in a post-fire area. But there's, without getting too much into it, there's a whole lot of water issues that continue and to kind of degrade the hydrology in the area. And that's one of the things that river science is really focused on right now, is using this as a case study of why it's important to continue to work well after a fire. So this is kind of a snapshot of this creek. You can see this is a 6.5 foot tall survey rod to kind of show how much this creek has quickly cut down with incision. There's no more runs or excuse me, there's no more pools through here. It's really all a run and a riffle, which makes the creek, the velocity is very fast. There's no real habitat in here right now. And that's kind of a big focus of what we're trying to do. Slow down the water, spread it out, create that diversity, that habitat, and to really stop this erosion. Moving in quickly, we also focus on a lot of technology within river science. This type of technology is how we try to make a lot of the data and the practice that we do affordable. So these are water quality sensors that we build inside. They look like this. It's about the size of a lunchbox. And we can put on different parameters or probes that read different parameters. This one is in Megan's hands right now. Actually, this is ET, ET01 is this guy's name. And he has dissolved oxygen, conductivity, temperature, pH, nitrate, ammonia. I think that's it. And he can send out data remotely through the antenna, so you can get real-time data. And it also, this one has GPS as well. So if you wanted to use it as a handheld and just take spot locations, it'll tag the all of those water quality variables with a location, so you can actually see it on a map or over time. So this one doesn't actually have turbidity shown here, but we do have turbidity on others. And then the data comes into a dashboard, and you can kind of see the data over time here. River Science focused a lot on water quality data because water quality data is, one, it's expensive, and two, it's discrete a lot of times. There's a little, you get data here and there kind of randomly sometimes, or very infrequent. And the whole idea about this, the whole reason we built these was to make water quality data more spatial and higher resolution. So you have more data and more locations, so that you can kind of look at the water quality over space and time and kind of see where problems are. It's a long road to build these, and we've been fortunate enough to work with Megan to get a GoCo grant through CPW's Director's Innovation Grant. And we've been working to improve this and test this and actually get it out to one of our groups with Riverwatch to actually see the potential of this for some of this group's specific needs. So we're really excited about these as well, but they do still have a fair bit of work to do before they're also ready for the masses. The last thing I'll just kind of talk about is a lot of river work, whether it's restoration or looking at impacts or issues. A lot of times we need those detailed elevation maps to kind of look at where water's moving and how it's moving. And that's a big part of what we do with River Science, is we can survey out elevations and map out. And this is a technology we use called structure for motion. Those blue dots or blue squares are the areas of where our drone takes pictures. So we have hundreds of pictures, thousands of pictures of an area on the ground. We also go out with land survey equipment, which is what these dots represent. And together with land survey and the aerial imagery, we can build out these full 3D models with elevation. And we use these for a lot of hydraulic modeling and planning for our restoration. So here, I'll just pause it real quick. You can, as I've panned down into this 3D image or 3D model, you can kind of see here, you have all the vegetation, all the trees, and then you have the riverbank, right? You can kind of see how it changes here. You can see where the active channel is of this particular creek called Big Cottonwood Creek. You can see somebody's house back there. And this is just one little area of the whole thing we mapped out here. Is about 2.5 miles. But we do this regularly, and it ends up being an extremely cost-effective way to get this elevation data, because we can spend, maybe 2 or 3 days out there surveying and taking pictures. And while we've only gained maybe a couple of hundred points of survey, we can actually transform this into millions and millions of points of data. So down here, it actually tells us that all of this area is built on, down here it says 442 million points. So that's, you can see it. This is the sparse point cloud is what it's called. You can kind of see here, this is the dense point cloud. Each one of it looks kind of like a picture in a 3D model, but it's actually made of individual points with an X, a Y, and a Z. And that's that 442 million. They're like pixels with elevation, I guess is the best way to describe it. So anyway, we use this a lot to then, let's go to the next slide. Oh, we got some audio coming in here. Let's see. So this is how we take that 3D model and we make it into what's called an elevation model, just a digital elevation model. And this is it here. So you can kind of see the red areas are higher elevation. So we're going upstream here. You can kind of see the 3D features of the land. So this is the imagery that overlays it. And then you can see we've back up. This is the actual elevation model. So you can kind of see the channels in here, the higher elevations. And then with the hydraulic model, we start putting in flow here at Bitter Creek, here at Little Cottonwood Creek, and then upstream down over here in Big Cottonwood Creek. And all the hydraulic model simulates the flow through this area. And then we kind of visualize it with the aerial imagery to go all the way up to a 100-year flood event here. So this is depth. The darker blue is deeper. And then the next one's velocity. So blue is slow velocity, and then going up the color ramp to red is high velocities up to a 100-year flood event. You can see here the value is really kind of showing where your assets are at risk. For some of these houses, they just completely get inundated and washed out. And in fact, this house right here did get washed out in a later flood event. It completely annihilated this house right here in a 25-year flood event. You can see it gets inundated pretty quick here in the simulation. So that's also what river science does, which is a lot. We do a lot of different things, all based around trying to make river health affordable and in hand for different projects, whether it's through our own restoration using low-tech processes, this type of mapping, which is more affordable than other methods that are currently available, or whether it's partnering through Riverwatch and having the citizen science component really help out to make that type of data collection affordable. All of that is really what river science is and what we do. So that's pretty much it. I'll just end here and I'll let you guys ask some questions if you'd like.
Do you have an example of your real-time probe?
Like just to look at it online?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can get there. But while I'm doing that, I'll let you guys ask another question if you want. This website's a little slow, I'll be honest, because it's got a lot of data. So we'll get into the back end here. So we'll go to the Decker fire monitoring. So Decker fire was up around Salida. And we've got sensors that have been in the Arkansas River, really mostly to look at turbidity. So when turbidity hits a value of 300, I'm going to go down here. So turbidity. So this one is, we had turbidity in there since November of 2020. And then right here in May, we had several floods during runoff. So this, where it turns from green to red, is that threshold we've set. And anytime turbidity crosses this line, it's sending out texts and emails to the water treatment managers so that they know upstream you have some really turbid water coming down. And that gives them about 2 hours to react, to actually go out there and close their intakes so that they're not pulling in all this turbid water, which is really bad for their infrastructure. So this is one event. There were a couple more throughout the year. But really that's what this particular project is about, is turbidity. We have others that are looking at all of the other suites. This one does collect other data too, dissolved oxygen over time, conductivity over time. We're kind of in the middle of updating this website, and for some reason, all doesn't always go towards the default. These sensors were pulled over the winter though, so we don't have data after August right now, but they're about to go back for runoff again. So this is older data that we're looking at here.
Do you anticipate adding any other parameters to these?
So that's what the GOCO grant is largely about with Megan and I, is looking at adding the nutrients, the 2 probes of nitrate and ammonia, and really kind of working through the calibration protocols of that and testing them in the field versus the lab data that Megan has hands-on, to be able to kind of make sure that the performance is there as we start to offer these out. These pH probes, conductivity, dissolved oxygen, these probes have been around for a long time. They're very dialed. They're very trustworthy. You can go out and calibrate them frequently and always keep them within really good accuracies and precisions. But these other probes, nitrates and ammonia, they're newer. They really haven't been introduced into natural systems. They've mostly been used for closed systems. So we're kind of in the process of really trying to understand the opportunity and limitations of these right now. Yep.
I had a question.
Add anything in there?
Did you want to add anything, Megan?
No, I think you put it right. We're definitely, continuing to look at nitrate and ammonium and looking at those paired with actual physical collections. But I think your summary of increasing spatial and temporal scale, Riverwatch Volunteer is already on monthly frequency. The temporal scale is huge compared to many other water collectors, but it's still a drop in the bucket when you think of a full month. So it's exciting to think about this and to understand runoff and capacity of where and how this might be implemented. And this data drop site that Luke says is still under development is one of the neatest platforms that I've seen, even with just these dials that I think help you quickly understand, like green means good, red means not so good, orange. And so, yeah, there's room to go, but it's neat to see, total results and value range. So it'll be something we'll continue to work on and partner with folks for. So, and Noah's been helping with that recently, as well as a former intern. So as we try to understand these and build in calibration regimes and protocols, it's been great. Your question, Brad?
Yeah, back to like the beginning of your presentation for like the curriculum and online platforms. What does like that application process look like? And is there any prerequisites for schools? Like, do they necessarily need to be a Riverwatch group if they want to do the river science curriculum or vice versa? What does that look like for schools who are interested?
Yeah, so the first step is to qualify for CDIP, right? To be eligible to receive any kind of refund or reimbursement from the state for those certificates, the schools have to fill out a form that's called the intent to participate, and that's usually available in April, and it's not open for very long. It's only maybe a month it's available. So it's a really easy form. Your school administrators just have to pretty much say we intend to participate in this program, send it to them, and then you're good for that year. To take it to the next level and actually go through, let's say, the Riverwatch CDIP, it does, so it's your typical Riverwatch program. Right now, we're just kind of focusing on the schools that have Riverwatch already as a group. In the future, there could be other opportunities there, but right now we're really trying to serve the schools that are already participating in the program. But it can be flexible, and that's where we're really trying to focus our time and energy right now, is figuring out what works well for these teachers that already have a Riverwatch program and how it works for them in their classroom. A lot of times these teachers are quite seasoned with teaching this, and really what we're trying to do is figure out how we can help them. We don't want to divert them and say, you have to teach it to this curriculum with these resources. A lot of teachers already have their groove, and what we're offering can be supplemental. For some of the newer teachers that are out there, though, the resources that we have may be of more use. And with all of the videos that you guys all shot, it really does walk through the protocols kind of step by step. So those resources are available as significant teaching aids. Michaela, jump in here, but I'll probably get this wrong. There are 17 different components of the Riverwatch training, and we're not requiring students to pass and test for all of those, but they get to choose 11. Is that correct, of the components?
So there's 19 different modules. The students have to complete the first module, and then they have 11 of the 19 to choose from to complete that.
Okay, so they're called modules, not components. There's 19 of them, not 17, but 11 I was right on, so I got 1 out of 3.
Also, mention that this is only open to public and charter schools right now. So a follow-up question to that would be, what if we had a public school or a private school that didn't want to participate in CDIP or wasn't able to participate in CDIP? Would your river science curriculum be available to those schools as well, eventually?
Yeah, possibly in the future. We're trying to really focus. Well, to back up, Riverwatch does already provide the program and the trainings to people that aren't just public or charter schools. It's really more of the CDIP funds. The CDIP funds can only be reissued by the state back to state schools. So, of course, Riverwatch can still have programs with these other schools, and we do. But for the CDIP funds specifically, that's where it gets a little bit more restricted, just based on what the state will issue funds to. That answered the question you were looking for, Michaela? Yeah, Bradley, I don't feel like I fully answered your question. What was your question again? Because I think we kind of went on the tangent of modules versus components and numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I was just curious, like if a school was interested and wasn't necessarily a Riverwatch group, could they still do river science curriculum or Riverwatch curriculum? I think you kind of answered it, or you touched on it at least.
Yeah, I think that our primary focus right now are the schools that we know that we can scale this to, right? That have the most to benefit from it. And it's taking a lot of our energy, but we don't want to leave anybody out as we build this out. So we can scale it in the future and try to figure out how to, if there's other schools that want to do river science or River Watch that don't necessarily qualify for CDIP, I think that there will be opportunities in the future.